It was late, but no, it was early, 3:42 a.m. I was falling asleep behind the wheel, but I had miles to go before I could sleep. So when I saw the illuminated sign for the donut shop and saw there were lights on inside, I stopped. I badly needed coffee. I pushed the door open, but didn't register my surroundings. I was fighting sleep so hard, I had tunnel vision. But I did notice the place looked kind of old-fashioned. It even had counter seating. You know, the round stools? Round stools with red cushions. A cup of black coffee was put down before me without my even having to ask. But it wasn't the quick service that grabbed my attention, but the coffee cup itself. It was a small, old-fashioned white ceramic cup, sitting on an old-fashioned saucer. I looked up in surprise and got a second shock. Behind the counter and looming over me was what looked like an old witch, or at least a hideous old hag. She was dressed entirely in black and cackled, opening her thin mouth to reveal a single greenish tooth. And I swear, damn it, I swear she had a wart on the tip of her nose. I was so startled, I just sat staring as she placed before me an old-fashioned Halloween donut with brown and orange icing. I hadn't seen a donut like that since I was a kid. Hell, since my dad was a kid. I was sitting there, just staring at it, when I heard a gruff voice from beside me say, "Ain't you gonna eat that?" I turned in my chair to find myself facing a werewolf. I jumped off my stool in terror and surprise, and for the first time took in my surroundings with wide open eyes. The place had a truly retro look, like it was a diner out of the 1950s. Sitting at the counter was the werewolf, but also an aristocratic vampire, complete with cape, a pair of witches even uglier than the one behind the counter, and several of what must have been ghosts. Ghosts wearing traditional white sheets. A rather dusty mummy sat at a corner table drinking tea, while the front door was suddenly thrust open by a man-made Frankenstein-type monster. Looking wildly around, I saw the walls were covered with framed prints of Goya, Doré, and Virgil Finlay, as well as classic horror movie posters. There were even framed portraits of old horror movie stars. I saw Lionel Atwill and George Zucco. What is this place?" I finally sputtered. "It's hell, or at least it's purgatory, for all these washed-up horror has-beens." "You're one to talk," the werewolf snarled. "You Halloween witches have been replaced by space aliens." I noticed he had eaten my donut. "You've been replaced too, Furface," the witch cackled. "Today it's Dogman, not Wolfman." "Dogman could go piss on a fire hydrant," the werewolf snarled. Turning to face me, he said, in his husky voice, We've all been put out to pasture. Humans don't find us scary anymore. Now it's Dogman and aliens and zombies and skinwalkers and wendigos and something called the Rake." The werewolf raised its furry mitts in anger. The Rake is a friggin' gardening tool. No one believes in supernatural horror anymore, Wolfie continued. Now what really frightens people are psycho killers. Qu'est-ce que c'est? He hung his shaggy head in resignation. We're no longer scary. Which started the ghosts howling dismally, the Frankenstein clone to begin growling, while the mummy got stiffly to its feet and began shuffling towards the counter, dragging one of its dusty bandages behind like a trail of toilet paper stuck to the heel of a shoe. As for me, I headed for the door, stopping to take one last look behind me. One last look behind me at the totally normal interior of a totally normal coffee/donut shop. The place was empty, except for the teenage girl behind the counter, who was regarding me with unwelcome curiosity. So I got out of there fast. It had all been a crazy dream. Or a nightmare. But I was no longer tired and sleepy. In the parking lot, I stood at the rear of my car, listening to the muffled groans of the woman I had bound and gagged and thrown in the trunk. And as I listened, I fingered the scalpel in my pocket. The scalpel in my pocket. It was very sharp, and I had to take care not to cut my finger. It was for cutting the flesh of another. Cutting other flesh. Other flesh. And I had miles to go before I could sleep. Sleep. The moral of the story? Avoid donut shops during the hours of darkness. Donuts are fattening. Or old ghosties never die. For one thing, they're already dead. Old ghosties never die. They just fade away. I know, not funny. But let's see if you can do better in the comments below. I double dog dare you, and I await your hilarious submissions. If this is your first visit to my channel, please consider subscribing. My name is Warren, and I write and tell original ghost stories and original horror stories featuring such cryptids as the Night Floaters, Werewolves, and the Black-Eyed Children. So again, please consider subscribing. Please help me to reach my goal of 2,500 subs. Till midnight, cheers! Pictures used in today's video, courtesy of Pix here, that's PX here. Wall, the music was the classic Ghost Processional by that patron of the internet, Kevin MacLeod. Thank you for listening.